Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextrous Gunfighter. I'm going to do a review of the current form of my spreadsheet, the one that I stole from James Reeve at TFB TV, and I've made some pretty significant modifications to it. So I want to step through them all, and then for those of you who are interested, you can steal the spreadsheet from me and tweak and modify it to your own needs, just like I've done. Now let's look at here. First, I've got 3 columns here that are in the light blue, and those are the ones that I call my weighted composite score. And then the yellow ones are the ones that are basically carryover from James Reeve's, the TFB TV spreadsheet. And then the green ones are one I recently added, which I call the Kinetic Energy related scores, and it's also based on weighted rounds as well. So first, let's start off with what I mean by weighted rounds. And so let's skip over here to this last tab here, looking on the bottom row here, this weighted rounds tab. And what I've got here is I've got for each, the assumption is that there's a marginal utility for each additional round beyond a certain point. So for example, in my case, I'm valuing the first 4 rounds basically as each round is equal to 1 whole round. And that's kind of based on the assumption that on average, most gunfights end within 4 rounds or less, or something like that. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But anyway, what I'm looking at is adding in marginal utility value of each additional round. So 1 round is given the full value of 1. So, and then the second round is given another full value, so it's 2 rounds. And then when I get to the 4th round, that 4th round I'm valuing it as 0.98 of a full round. So the way I view this is that if I have a pistol that carries 4 rounds, I am giving that pistol, by my calculations, I'm going to use 3.98 as the capacity of it. Now, where this gets more interesting is when you get into the higher round counts. For example, at 15 rounds here, I get the calculation at that point, the 15th round is worth 0.6 of a round, and so the total round count that I'm valuing that 15 round magazine is 12.93, so about 13 rounds. So basically I'm saying a 15 round gun is worth 13 rounds. Now you can see here on this graph, which is basically graphing, it starts out here at the top where each additional round is equal to 1 round, and then it drops off, and then it becomes this, as we've kind of seen with the coronavirus thing, becomes kind of a counter exponential type of looking graph here, or as the graph that approaches basically 0. And there would be a point at some point where out at a certain number of rounds where adding 1 more round has no value. And then even beyond that, each additional round would have negative value. For example, you could say, yeah, I'm going to have a pistol that has 10,000 rounds. Well, at 10,000 rounds is probably more of a burden than it's worth, at least to carry it. So this is the information, these fields here, where the rounds as the number of rounds in a flat base plate magazine on a pistol is in this column, and then I am doing a lookup and finding this value over here to kind of degrade a little bit that overall round count. So if we go back to the compact pistols 9mm pistol tab here, we can see here I've got this very first one here. I actually have a Ruger the 5.7, which of course is not a 9mm, but I put it on there just because I kind of wanted to see how it'd look and all this. And it has a capacity of 20 rounds, and then with my weighted capacity, that works out to 15.33 rounds. And then of course the Glock 48 or the Glock 43 with the Shield magazine, you know, I've got 15 rounds capacity, and then of course that drops down to 12.93 for our calculations, our weighted round counts. Now here, for example, is the my highest rating full ambi pistol, the H&K VP9, which has a the new models now have a round count of 17 rounds, and that works out to 13.98 rounds that I'm going to use in the calculations. So these light blue columns are what I'm using to come up with my weighted round composite, which is very similar to the composite value that James Reeves has calculated on his spreadsheet, but mine is using weighted rounds. So this using weighted rounds gives a little more emphasis, I guess you'd say, on being not just bulky efficient with carrying of how many rounds you have, but being valuing how valuable is that, having a really large pistol with a large round count versus, say, a smaller, lighter pistol that has a reduced round count, a slightly reduced round count. Now the other thing I've added was the whole kinetic energy calculations. And so the way I'm doing that is I'm basically entering in the barrel length for each of the weapons, and then it's doing a calculation that's based on that length, and I'm valuing one as a 5-inch barrel is given a full value basically, and then as you go down to a 3 or 2-inch barrel, 2.5-inch barrel, your kinetic energy value drops, or this number here drops in the BKE column here. It's the barrel kinetic energy factor, as it is what I call it. And then I use that in my calculations for kinetic energy per square inch, which is similar to rounds per square inch, but it's taken in the fact that you have a very short barrel or a very long barrel, and how valuable, how effective each of those rounds that you have are. So and then of course I have the kinetic energy composite score here, which is like the weighted composite score, except it's valuing the higher velocity rounds of a longer barrel a little more than the lower velocity rounds of a smaller barrel. For example, way down here at the bottom of the spreadsheet, we've got a Ruger LCR, which has a barrel that's only 1.87 inches long. So it's a pretty small barrel kinetic energy factor, and that ends up giving it a pretty low kinetic energy composite score. Now I do have some things down here in the bottom here beneath all the data columns here. Here's the last one with the Ruger LCR, the revolver, and I've got a factor here that this is what's used to calculate, to do some of the weightings, so that I value weight and size, and size and weight basically equally. So this is a factor to accommodate that and make the rounds per ounce and rounds per size pretty much the same weighted value. And then I've got down here a weight versus size factor that you can change. If you set it to 1, it's just going to weight them equally. Now if you set the now, if weight is a more important factor to you, you reduce this number to like 0.8 or 0.5 or something. If weight is a less important factor, then you would increase this number. And then that will basically alter the formulas in the spreadsheet and change the scores a bit. And then I also have a kinetic energy factor, which weights how valuable kinetic energy is to you. So you could set that as 1 for you don't want to consider kinetic energy at all. Basically, that's going to make it the weighted composite score. Or you can set 0 for a very high consideration for kinetic energy. And I have it set at 0.6. So what we can see here is by using the composite, looking at the composite energy column here, is that the Ruger 5.7, which of course is not a 9mm, but it has a very high value there of 5.6. Now the highest 9mm pistol is the one that's with the 48 or the Glock 43 with the Shield 15 round magazines, and that really makes it a pretty impressive package for both Kinetic Energy the Kinetic Energy Composite Score, and also for just even the standard, looking at just the standard weighted composite scores, it puts it really up there. For just the weighted composite score, the Glock 43X actually comes out on top. In fact, is looking at just the weighted composite score, it is the highest value pistol in the spreadsheet at a 5.23. There's nothing else that comes close to it. It's only when you get to the Kinetic Energy composite score that the Glock 48 actually inches out the Glock 43 because of that additional velocity, and then of course the Ruger 5.7 really comes out on top. Now I've got these this column over here on the left side that lists each of the pistols. They are also color coded, and the yellow, this light yellow here, means that that's a pistol that comes in under 20 ounces. And I just did that because to me that's really important, and I just wanted to kind of monitor that real quick visually. Now the green ones, these light green ones, those are all ambidextrous pistols. That is, pistols that have both ambidextrous slide releases and ambidextrous magazine releases. And so there's a few of those in there, and like I said, the H&K VP9 with the new 17 round magazines is at the top of the list as far as the ambi pistols. The Walther PPQ is in second place for the ambi pistols. And then I've got currently have the CZ P10C is rated very high, but the FNS 9C is right on its heels. So basically, if you want to steal this spreadsheet, you can. It's shared. It's a public share, and the link will be in the description of this video. You can, save it to your own Google Drive, and then you can modify it to your heart's content. Now, something else I have done, and it's if you notice here, I've got the height and width columns here. I've really tried to abbreviate things down really small as much as possible because I wanted to get everything from this column here listing the pistol all the way over to the weighted composite or Kinetic Energy composite score all on one screen on my computer screen, which is a small notebook. For most of you that have big displays, you'll have no problem seeing all of this. But so I've reduced these down a bit, and you can of course save the spreadsheet locally and change those names and open these columns up a bit, get yourself a little more breathing room, maybe change the font size here a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see, which is what I had to do to get these columns to shrink down a bit. Now, something I did was on the width column. And what I've done on the pistols that I actually have is I've actually done measurements on the width, and I basically took 4 measurements. One being the widest point, which on the H&K VP9 is the slide releases. Then I've also taken samples in other places, one right behind the at the back of the beaver tail. I've also checked the width, the widest part of the grip, and then up in here as well. And I basically took an average of those 4 samples in order to get a more accurate, I think, view of what width means, because to me it's not quite fair to say that this pistol has a 1.3 inch width if it's only in a small area like that versus a pistol that's that width from one end to the other. For example, here's also the PPQ. Again, it's very narrow in most areas, a little bit wider at the slide releases, and then thinner at the other areas. So, and again, also the FNS 9C, again, the ambidextrous slide releases add a little bit to the width, but only for a small area. Most of it's actually quite narrow. And of course, we got our venerable Kel-Tec PF9, which is probably the narrowest. I think it is the narrowest 9mm pistol on this list at 0.88 inches. So that is something, and I've got those that I've made those modifications to. They have the little note added into it, which says average of 4 measurements. And so that's something, if you wanted to restore it actually to the factory numbers, you could do that. You know, restore the H&K VP9 to 1.3 inches, and it's going to push it down in the rankings quite a bit. I don't think it'd be enough to push it out of the top rankings for Ambi pistol, but nonetheless it would push it down in the list overall. And to be fair, there's some of these other pistols that, you know, if they're close, it would be worth some of these other pistols I don't own. It'd be interesting to have the sampling, the average sampling of the width, to get an idea of what, you know, what is really the width like on a particular pistol. Some pistols might have really obtrusive takedown levers that take up a lot of space, but yet it's just in a small area. So that's just something I've done to kind of give my ambidextrous pistols a little bit of a, you know, take a little bit of weight off the scale, lift them up a little bit. Now I do have a tab here on the volume analysis where I did some, there's another whole video on AmbGun.com or on my video channel on where I basically got a collection of the blue guns from bluegun.com and basically did some volume analysis to see if that had any really big effect on, instead of using width and grip height, using a total volume analysis to see if that made any difference. And it really didn't really change the rankings all that much, but that's there on that tab if you want to take a look at it. There are some things where it helps out. The Walther PPQ was given a little bit of boost, which I think is largely due to the reduced volume of the oval shaped slide. Now we do also have the 380 still listed on here on the tab, and that's, while I do have the weighted composite scores on there, I've not done anything with the kinetic energy stuff there. Probably won't, but anyway, that's kind of remained pretty much, besides the weighted stuff, is remained pretty much the same as it came from TFB TV. Anyway, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextro Gunfighter. I hope you found this video a little bit interesting. I know it's kind of geeky stuff, but it's I think a good way to look at you know, evaluating pistols, or getting, you know, at least doing some initial evaluation of pistols. I mean, really what it comes down to is you need to get, you know, once you've narrowed down the pistols that meet your size, you know, rounds per size and weight requirement, or your kinetic energy per size and weight requirement, then you need to get that pistol and get hands on it and see if you can, if bringing it up to your eye, if it points right readily. Now that's really hard to do at a gun shop, because I mean they're probably not going to let you go, you know, be swapping out back straps. You'd have to have a pretty friendly gun shop to let you do that. And for like on the H&K VP9, where I've got the smaller back strap and then also the thinner side panels on it, so it makes that into a very thin gun that when I close my eyes and bring it up, the sights are perfectly level for me, given the angle of the grip there. And then also with the smaller back strap, it puts my trigger finger in to where when it hits the wall, it's at basically a 90-degree angle coming straight back. We'll show you here when I did just to kind of show you the formulas that are going on here. Under this weighted capacity, it uses the VLOOKUP, which basically says look up. For this one, it's looking up based on the information in this column, or in this case in the right here, and then look over to the weighted rounds tab and look for the WRNDS named range, and then select the third column in that named range and return that value back here. So that's, I mean, it took me a while to actually figure out how I could do that, and it's pretty easy to put in place, but it's something, you know, just to kind of, yeah, the formulas there, what's going on. And like here, this here is making the calculation of the kinetic energy based on the value, the factor, kinetic energy factor based on the barrel length. And so you can check out the calculation I'm using there if you like, and you can always, modify that. I'm using, to me, the one value, the full value is 5-inch barrel. If you want to, you could change that formula and make, I want the full value to be a 6-inch barrel, a 7-inch barrel, or 3-inch barrel, whatever. But so you can change that however you want. So here, let's just give a quick rundown of our spreadsheet champions at this time. And we've got the Ruger 5.7 at the top of the list, even though it's not 9mm. Like I said, just wanted to put it there just kind of to see how it did on the spreadsheet compared to the 9s. So really at the top of the 9mm list, I've got, and this is with it sorted right now at for the Kinetic Energy Composite Score. So the Glock 48 with the Shield S15 magazine is the top of the list. Glock 43X with the Shield magazine is second place, and it's a pretty close second place. It's right on the heels of its bigger brother there with the longer barrel. The Rex Delta, which is a fairly larger handgun, and borderline maybe for true concealed carry, but nonetheless it's pretty efficient with as far as size, weight, and its kinetic energy it can bring to bear. So it does fairly well here. And of course the Springfield Hellcat is in fifth place here, due largely to its being so lightweight, compact, and pretty high capacity. Of course, the barrel length, it's not getting full value on each round, but still, its capacity is pretty phenomenal for the size. And then, of course, you get to my perennial favorite, the H&K VP9 with the new 17-round magazines in the 2020 version. I still have 15s in mine, but I'm fine with that. But anyway, for evaluation purposes on the spreadsheet, that does pretty good. It puts it up there, in competition with a lot of other pistols. Now, the Mossberg MC2C is here in 7th place. Very compact, lightweight gun. And then we've got the Sky CPX2, again, lightweight and compact. Glock 19, just simple Glock efficiency on a 15-round pistol. And then my Walther PPQ M1 Classic with the, well, I assume the paddle magazine release is not a factor in this, although I would give it extra buku bonus points for the paddle magazine release over the button mag release. But it comes in at 10th place, so pretty good for an ambi pistol. And then we've got the SIG P365 XL, which is in 12th, and then it's SAS little brother with the low minimal sights on top, so that reduces its height a bit, and that's why it tops out over its other brother, just the standard SIG P365. The old Kel-Tec P11 is in 13th place. Ruger American 9 had one of those and wasn't happy with its ambidextrous features at all. So you can check out the review if you want to check out and learn why. And then we got down here, keep moving down. We've got, of course, the SIG P320 X carry comes in fairly well, but it's a pretty big gun for concealed carry, but still is pretty efficient for the amount of rounds it can carry for its size, and then the kinetic energy it delivers for its size. So. And then we got the SIG P365. Now, if I do change the sorting of this, for example, if I sort it by weighted composite, then this all changes. If I ignore kinetic energy, and if I wanted to resort this whole spreadsheet, then you're going to see the 365 and all these smaller handguns percolate up to the top of the spreadsheet. And you'll see the 365 and Hellcat all be right up in there, right on the tails of the Glock 43. Now, the way you do a sort, let's just kind of show you how to do that. I'm going to reduce the size here so I can see the full spreadsheet. And I'm going to, so we got some extra columns here on the end that are basically used for just some of the calculations. You can kind of ignore those. And so I'm just going to select from here all the way up into the column headers here. And now I go to Data, Sort Range, And then our data has a header row. So I'm going to select that, and what that basically does is changes the sort by to where I can choose in here from, here's my Kinetic Energy composite, which is what it's sorted by right now. So if I want to change it to weighted composite, we'll select that, and then I want to, of course, sort it so that the top pistols, the best scores, are at the top. So I'm going to reverse the order, descending order there, and click sort. And it's saying, are you sure you want to do this because this is a protected worksheet? And I'll say okay. Now we'll bump it back here up to full size. And now we can see that with the weighted composite score, the Glock 43X moves to the top of the spreadsheet. The Springfield Hellcat is very close on its heels, or pretty close on its heels. See, the Glock 43X has a 5.24 weighted composite score, and that really has no meaning other than the fact that it's a combination of the weighted rounds per ounce and the weighted rounds per square inches, and then that factor, like I mentioned, to make those have about the same value. So basically I'm taking the weighted rounds per ounce times 4 plus the weighted rounds per square inch so that they each have about the same value, and then that's my composite score. So let's go down through the composite score. We got the Glock 43X with the Shield magazine at the top of the list, the Springfield Hellcat. So the Springfield Hellcat is number 1 when you look at a stock out-of-the-box pistol. The Glock 43X with the Shield magazine, of course, you have to buy the extra magazines to make that get at the top of this list. And then third place, you got the Glock 48 with the Shield magazines. We'll skip the Ruger 5.7 because it's not really a 9mm, so I don't want to really figure it in the value here. We got the Sky CPX2, the Rex Delta, the Sig P365. Of course, the Rex Delta is scoring high because it's just very efficient, very large capacity. It's a pretty large gun, but a lot of rounds in it for its size and weight. 365 SAS, Kel-Tec P11, Mossberg MC2C, H&K VP9 still stays in the basically the top 10, so it stays in there even if we don't look at the Kinetic Energy side. Then we got the Sig P365, the 365 XL, Glock 19, Walther PPQM Classic, and then, but to kind of give you an idea, we've got the Glock 43X with the Shield magazine at the top of the list. Let's go down here and see where the Glock 43 is without the Shield magazine, and it's pretty far down here on the rankings without that Shield magazine. It's significantly behind the times. Quite honestly, I think Shield Arms is rescuing the Glock compact pistols for them. So anyway, that's it for the pistol rounds per size and weight spreadsheet as I've modified it. Hope you liked the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's Mark Laughlin with Ambidextrous Gunfighter, www.ambgun.com. Thanks for watching.